Remember these three things: clarify, verify, terrify. Right, babe, let's get right to it. No, not it. No, nope, that's not it either. That's not it. Get it right, would you? Get it right this time, all right? That's not what we're after. Ugh. Some photographers are absolute trash at real-time communication, also known as directing, which is their job. The photographer is supposed to tell the model exactly what they're supposed to be doing in order to capture the shot that the client wants. So what are you going to do when you work with a photographer that sucks at directing? It's a make or break type of experience. If you get it right and you know how to work with that photographer, even if they're horrible, then it can make you go skyrocketing in the good graces of the client and everybody else that you work with on that shoot. But if you get it wrong and you don't navigate that well, as frustrating as that experience is, if you get it wrong, then that horrible photographer is going to drag you right down with them. So it's important to know how to deal with photographers that don't communicate well, that you just can't really stand working with, but here you are on the set of a job you can't escape and you have to make it work. If you're not already in the school community of Pose to Profit, where we cover all types of info like this to get you making money and making more money faster in the modeling world, then get in there. It's school.com/pose to profit, school with a K. And it's completely free. Now you're on set and you have a photographer that it's you and them. To understand for the newbies there, the line of communication goes from the client. So let's say the brand, whatever brand this is Oakley, right? So let's say we're on an Oakley shoot. The client is the person or people from Oakley. They communicate directly with the photographer, and they've been communicating for a long time before this moment right now, before the shoot day. That client has had a load of communication with the photographer. They know what they're after, what they're trying to get. Us as the model, you as the model, you show up on set and you're like, cool, I've maybe done my research. If you're good, you've done some research on the brand, you've looked at their most recent ads and seen kind of what they're after, the feelings that they're after in their ads. But you don't know what today is really about. Then maybe they're making a huge pivot and it's going to be totally different from anything you've looked up and researched. Or maybe today is right in line with that, but they're doing something you don't really know until you show up to set. So we have very little information to work with. You don't know what's to come. You're relying on communication. The client and the photographer are same page. Now it's like a game of telephone where the photographer's job is to communicate this to you, the model. If they do it well, you guys have a fantastic shoot. You do your job, you crush the poses and the feelings and everything in the shoot, and everybody's happy. But we have a horrible to work with photographer who doesn't know how to communicate. So what are you going to do when that line of communication, the photographer to the model, is broken? Because you don't really communicate directly with the client. That's the photographer's job. They're the middleman. So what do? I'm going to give you a I'm going to give you a 3-step framework for you to use anytime you find yourself in this situation where you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. It's getting awkward. It's getting frustrating because no matter what I do, no matter what poses I'm trying to capture, I'm trying my best here. All I'm getting from the photographer is no, that's not good. That's not what we want. Now, in my acting training, in my acting world, one of the biggest takeaways that has served me in real life, not just in the world of, this industry, but in everyday life, is the difference between the affirmative and the negative. Most people operate in the negative. And the example that I gave of the photographer, he's shooting and he's like, no, 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 no. That's working in the negative because, and this isn't negative like good, bad, negative. This is confirming or just not confirming. Now, that photographer, our example photographer here, is working in the negative because everything that's being shot is no, 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 but there's an infinite amount of no's out there, right? I'm sitting in a chair right now, so that's the affirmative. That's the one thing I'm doing. I'm sitting in a chair. But that means I have infinite things I'm not doing. So if we're trying to communicate and you ask me, hey, what are you doing? And I say, well, I'm not swimming. And you go, okay, what are you doing? And I say, well, I'm not running. Okay, what are you doing? I'm not flying a plane. What are you doing? There's an infinite amount of the things that I'm not doing. And that's what that photographer is doing. And I've worked with photographers that operate in this way. No, not that. No, not that. And it's like, just tell me what you want. Tell me already. What is it that you do want? And people in relationships, you've probably had this experience where What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want? Do you want this? No. You want that? No. You want this? No. Just tell me already. This is the same thing. It gets so much better when you can just get the affirmative. What do you want, photographer person? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to capture with my emotions, with my body, the physicality of me as the model? What do you want? But if you don't have that, if the game of telephone has broken down because the photographer isn't doing well to communicate with you, you have some tools at your disposal. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do on set when I run into this encounter. It's rare that I work with photographers that are really bad at communication. Sometimes they're just so caught up, and who knows what it is. Maybe this shoot got sprung on them last minute and they didn't have enough prep time like they normally would, or maybe they just really aren't that good at communicating, or who knows. You know, people have life situations, their home life is blowing up, they're preoccupied there. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. You need some tools so that you can navigate those times where you're having the hardest time understanding what the photographer wants to capture. So remember these three things: clarify, verify, terrify. This is how I go about it. So for clarify, first, let's say we're shooting and I'm trying to get this thing right, whatever the photographer's after, and I just keep hearing no, 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 right? And okay, hold on. I just want to make sure what you're wanting me to do is this, and you just repeat what the photographer told you. So usually they'll say, okay, hey, we're going to try to capture a shoot. Maybe they show you this, like, hey, here's a little mood board, a little look of what we're after. We want to capture this. And you go, okay, great. So you go and you start shooting, you're posing, the photographer's shooting, and the photographer's just like, no, no, no. You want to clarify. So this is the first step: clarify. Hey, real quick, you just want me to do this. And you repeat back what they told you. You try to use their words exactly here, because it gets different in the next step. So clarify. Clarify what they said. We want you to look like an avid outdoorsman in your Oakley shirt with a fishing rod. It's like, okay, so I do this, and they say, no, that's not it. And I go, okay, and I'll try again, and maybe a different facial expression, same fishing rod thing. No, that's not it. Okay, I just want to clarify here. Did you want me to look like the avid outdoorsman with a fishing rod? And the photographer's like, yes. And I go, okay, so we're on the same page. Now, you want to do this out loud for a couple reasons. One, you want to do it loud enough so you can hear the photographer and he can hear you or she can hear you, to where you go, okay, we're communicating. But you also want to do it loud enough so the client is made aware, who wherever they are. Sometimes they're sitting right next to the photographer. Sometimes they're a little bit off somewhere else. So you want to be loud enough to kind of capture their attention. The client, the Oakley personnel, they want this shoot to be on time with killer assets, excellent images. So that's their like sensors, their spidey sensors are going off when they hear something is not really going well. So you say it loud enough to kind of capture their attention. Now they're made aware of what's going on here. Like, there's a breakdown of communication here, but they don't know who's at fault yet. And this is okay. So you say it loud enough. Hey, I just want to clarify. You wanted the avid outdoorsman with the fishing rod, right? Yes. Great. So you get that from the photographer. Now the client is made aware of this as well. And they go, okay, now they communicated. They know what they're after, whatever. Now you're doing the same thing, and you're trying this stuff, and you're trying to nail it as best you can. The photographer just keeps going, no, 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 that's not it. No, no, no. And you're just like, oh boy. Now we go into phase two. We already clarified. Now we verify. And when we verify, it's not using the same lingo. It's not using the same language that we did in the first one. We already used the photographer's terminology, but maybe we're the problem here. Maybe what I think of an avid outdoorsman with a fishing rod is totally different from him or her or the rest of the world. So I could be at fault here. Maybe it's just a simple breakdown of communication and understanding. So I want to verify. Hey, real quick, when you say avid outdoorsman with a fishing rod, what I'm hearing is this: a guy who's happy to be out here fishing and throwing the fishing rod and, kind of smiling, feeling like, I feel so good to be out here fishing. This is what I love to do. And that's what I'm trying to capture. Is that accurate to what you're after? Is that what you mean when you say avid outdoorsman who's got a fishing rod? So now you put it into your own terminology. You put it into your own kind of story and package it and present it for them to say yes or no. They have another avenue here to say, ooh, I see what's going on here. This is what I mean. That's not it. Whatever you just said, it's actually this part. And they might sprinkle a little more on top or take something away from whatever you just shared. But this is where you verify. So you're using your own terminology now to capture what they originally said. And you again do this loud enough so the client hears this, because then they're made aware of like, oh, I see this model is doing a really good job at trying to understand what the photographer is telling them. And it sounds like there's a breakdown in communication. So they're tipped off to, there's a breakdown here, but the model, you are trying your best to make things work. And you're actually over communicating here, where the photographer at this point isn't really doing much communication. You're owning that, right? So now they're made aware of that. You try to verify, and then you get to taking your next set of shots. And they're like, okay, yeah, let's go for this. And you're doing the same thing, and maybe a little twist on it, maybe a little side cast or whatever it is, right? Maybe you got the fishing rod over your shoulder, however you want to go about it, right? And you're doing the adjustments based on your clarification and verification, but it's still not enough. The photographer is like, no, 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 that's not it. And now you're like getting to your wits' end. You're like, I have tried everything with you, but you haven't yet, because you haven't tried to terrify. Now, here's what I mean when I say terrify. We've done everything out loud and the client is there. Meanwhile, you understand the hierarchy here. The client is the one that hires the photographer. They're the ones that pays the photographer. So in this experience, the client is the boss of the photographer. The photographer doesn't want to be under the bullseye of their boss. They want to do a good job for the boss, but now we're starting to stir things up. So you need to terrify at this point. And the way that I do this, very respectfully, again out loud to the photographer, and make it known to everybody on set, whoever is there, and especially the client, but you're speaking directly to the photographer. What I say is, I'll break the character of like whatever I've been doing, instead of kind of staying in the spot that we've been shooting, where I would normally be kind of stay here while we're going to pose. I will step away from that and go toward the photographer, not aggressively like, yo, you better get this, not terrifying like that. What I'll do is I'll step toward them. I'll say, okay. And I pause everything on the set. Like, everybody knows that we're not shooting right now, because I stepped off of my spot where I'm supposed to be for the shot and everything, and I'm going over here. It's now like reset mode. This is terrifying several people for different reasons. It's terrifying the client because they're like, wait a minute, is this model just about to walk off set entirely? Like, what? I don't know what's going on, but I could tell that this isn't right. It's not going well. So it sparks their attention, because they're like, what is going on? And on top of that, even if things are going okay or going well, model stepping off of their mark is taking our time, which time is money. So we need to get this shoot done and get as many shots as we can. But obviously, we're not shooting right now if model is off the mark. You step off the mark, and this is what I say. I said, I'll wave my hands and I say, okay, because by now everybody knows it's kind of frustrating. We're not meshing. Things aren't going well for whoever's fault. There's no pointing fingers right now, but everybody is aware that this isn't going that great. So I'll just, okay, I'll walk toward them. I'll wave it off and say, okay, I just want to make sure that we nail this. And the we is important here, because it's a collective, it's a team thing. And you're making it a point of, hey, I'm here trying to do the best job I can so that we can all win together. So I just want to make sure that we nail this. What is the goal of this shot exactly? Like, what's the feeling that we're trying to capture here? Because I want to make sure that we nail it, right? When you bring this type of question in and you raise this to the photographer, but everybody hears you, this is where what has usually happened for me is the client jumps in and they intervene and they go, okay, hey, this is kind of what we're after, because they're the one with the original vision. They had the original vision. They relayed that to the photographer in their time working pre-shoot time, right? Leading up to the photo shoot. The client knows the vision better than the photographer does. So they usually will jump in and they'll say, hey, okay, here's kind of what we are. And they might say something like, you're not quite an avid outdoorsman. You're actually brand new and you should be looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and you don't really know how to hold a fishing rod yet. That's totally different from what the photographer told you, right? Now you know this. Now you have that, and now you can express that. And that was not communicated to you because the photographer sucks at real-time communication. They sucked at directing you. But now you've gotten to the bottom of it in a way that does not make anybody look bad by demeaning somebody, but inadvertently the photographer looks bad because you've made 3 different chances to try to make this work, and it took the client to do the job of the photographer in order to get you into the right space where you can nail the shot. But you never demean anybody. You just let everybody know I'm trying to do my best here, but with the information that I'm receiving right now, this is what it's showing up like. So maybe there's some different information that I don't yet have. Or maybe the information I do have, I'm interpreting wrong. So let's get clear on that, right? We clarify, we verify, and then we terrify. Terrify is when the shoot shuts down, we're stopping, and we're like, what is going on here? I'm trying to get this right based on the information that I'm given, but something is off. So somebody send in the life raft, somebody throw out the lifesaver, the life preserver, so we can get this shoot done and get it done well. Those are the 3 steps that can save not only that photo shoot, they can save your reputation. If the client sees you interacting in this way, you're not demeaning anybody, as frustrating as this is. And let me tell you, when you're working with a photographer that can't communicate well and you're trying every possible thing and hitting all of the things they're telling you to hit, but it's not working and they don't give you more information, this is one of the most frustrating things that I experience. Now, maybe it's just me and my own triggers and whatever, but it is incredibly frustrating. So when a client sees you navigate that well and still end up at the end of the day getting the shots that the client wanted, no matter how frustrating it may or may not have been, and you did it with grace, you handled it in a way that you weren't demeaning the photographer, you were making it pretty clear to everybody that you weren't the bad seed in this whole production, but you didn't ever put anybody down. When they see that, they might say, damn, I love how this model handled that situation and I want to book them again. Or maybe somebody else on set, whether it's, hair and makeup, a stylist, something like this, somebody else in the production might see how you handle that and they might go, wow, that was absolutely incredible. We want to push your name out there more whenever somebody comes to us for a potential shoot, a potential production. And this happens in this industry. If you don't know it already, if you haven't experienced already, people talk, people will put names out and drop names in hats all the time. You want to be one of those good names that people feel confident about dropping into a hat, because when somebody refers you to a job, what they're essentially saying is, put my reputation on the line that I vouch for this individual as being a quality model. So if you do this right, you clarify, you verify, you terrify, and you do it well, you follow these steps when you're working with a horrible photographer, you can still save the day. You can still salvage your reputation, and you still might end up with some good shots and the client might still be happy. That's what you want. Oh, good. Let's just FaceTime call in the middle of my video. Okay, so don't let a bad photographer kill your vibe. You are your vibe. You can absolutely take control of the tribe, even if you are the leader of that shoot, of that tribe, right? You can make this happen. Just be on the same team with the same dream and make that communication known when you clarify, verify, and then terrify. That is how you deal with a horrible photographer.